But let's go right now to Democratic politics. The new polls out, and the Democratic presidential field is pretty fixed with one exception. At 32%, Joe Biden maintains a double-digit lead in the latest Monmouth University poll. 32% strong. But look at this. Here she comes. Steve Rattner's favorite candidate, Elizabeth Warren. Just joking, Steve. Is the only top candidate who gained in the last month. She is up 5 points to 15%. Something's happening there. And this is the first poll I've seen Bernie Sanders in third place with 14%, Kamala Harris 8%, Pete Buttigieg at 5%, Beto is at 3%. And the first poll of the race from USA Today, Suffolk University shows Biden at 30%, Sanders 15%, followed by Warren at 10%, Mayor Pete at 9%, and Harris at 8%. What do you see, Steve Rattner, in that list as the donor class is starting to move towards the candidates that they're going to want to fund for the rest of the campaign?
Well, they're not moving toward Elizabeth Warren, but she's getting there on her own. She's had a great couple of weeks.
And as you've always said, I mean, that's the most powerful thing. Online fundraising, the ability to get there on your own without the big donors. You say that fuels you for the entire campaign.
Fuels you, but also she's getting there in the polls on her own. She's had a great couple of weeks. She's become identified, which it's hard in a field of 23. She's identified with a strategy. Her strategy, I've got a plan. I've got a plan for everything. And honestly, I would have guessed at the beginning of this campaign, this might have been a kind of policy-free zone with a lot of just yelling and screaming about Donald Trump. Right. But in fact, she and now some other candidates are putting out these plans. But more than that, where she has been speaking, it has had an enormous impact. She was on Saturday at the Black Economic Alliance down in Charleston, and she's obviously not black, but she spoke she gave her speech, and I'm told by friends of mine who were there, she got the only standing ovation of anybody at that conference. And she is now perceived to be certainly the alternative to Bernie Sanders, both preferred and probably with the momentum. Whether she can get further than that and take on Biden and take on whoever else emerges a front runner, we will see. She's still not the choice of centrist mainstream Democrats.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. I saw a rally of hers, and it looked like, and we've said this before, she has the same demographic as Bernie does. A lot of white people. A lot of younger white people.
But that's why at this BEA thing, there were a very small number of white people. It was almost all African Americans. Yeah. And she got a standing ovation.
Well, we'll see. It's going to be a challenge, I think, to break into Joe Biden support there. But it does look like we have a top tier now, which is Biden and Bernie, Elizabeth Warren, Mayor Pete, and Kamala Harris owning the number 8. She's like at 8% in every poll, but she's just right outside of that top 4. But it's a pretty solid top 4 in every poll.
I totally agree. It's a pretty solid top 4. It's still very early. We're still about, 7 months away from the first state where folks are going to be caucusing, and we're 502 days away from the general election that's going to happen clearly in November 2020.
But how many days away are we from their FEC reports coming out, which shows they're not going to have enough money to get to the end of the year?
And that's a whole nother conversation. Yeah, I mean, I think the FEC reports also is going to dwindle down a bit of the field. Once we see that second quarter, we'll get a sense. Those 1%, are they going to be able to stay in, or are they going to have to drop out? Look, I want to touch base on Elizabeth Warren a little bit, because you were talking about BEA and how she's really resonating now and she's taking off. The thing about Elizabeth Warren is she has this inclusive populism, if you will, where she talks about economic equality and talks about what it means for people of color, for women, and it's really resonating. The People Forum, I think that was one of the first places that you saw her resonate with that base, with that part of the base, and then you saw it last weekend when she got a standing ovation. So it's been really clear she's been authentic, and she's also had these policies that she's been able to talk about it in an authentic way and resonating and connecting with people, and that matters with 24 people, and that's how she's been able to contrast herself.
And there's one last point. While she is not necessarily the most popular person in my world, she is vastly popular to Bernie Sanders. She says she's a capitalist. She says she believes in markets. We'll see what actually happens. But she's pitching a better line for Democrats who are not that far over than Bernie Sanders is.
And it's very interesting, Karine, to your point. I've always believed that the Democratic candidate or the independent candidate that changes American politics forever is the one that actually does what Bobby Kennedy did. He was the last one to do it, and that is unite black working class Americans and white working class Americans. That scene when Bobby was on his body was going down the railroad tracks to Washington D.C. and that beautiful scene of on one side of the track black Americans waving flags, on the other side of the track white working class Americans waving flags, and the train goes by and the two sides walk back to their homes, and nobody's brought them back together, Elise, again in the middle of that track. If Elizabeth Warren can do it,
well,
that's
the Bobby
powerful.
Kennedy parallel is so interesting to me because one of the first stops that Elizabeth Warren made when she embarked on her tour was going to the Mississippi Delta, just like Bobby Kennedy, and talking about housing policy with voters in the Mississippi Delta. And I feel like her slow and steady approach and actually having a plan has given her this incredible recovery because, quite frankly, I thought the video during the midterms that she released was political malpractice, and I couldn't believe that anyone advising her or that she herself thought it was a good idea. But in this, Trump political,
that was bad.
But in this Trump era, it's almost
Who cares?
better to do something bad 6-8 months ago, recover, show that you're serious, and show that you're about more than a soundbite, and it's resonating with voters.
And I think that resiliency matters. I think some Democrats have suggested that this is someone who Donald Trump put in it, went after full force, went after with the Pocahontas nickname and everything else, and she took a hit, but she withstood it and has gotten back on her feet and moved forward. She's moved up in the polls. She's also, as we saw in the last couple of days, suddenly taken a lot of tax from Bernie Sanders, who's clearly very concerned about the inroads that she has made into that sort of liberal wing of the party. He went after her on Twitter yesterday. His campaign later sort of suggested no, it was more broader than that. But like she is right now, she is the one who has the momentum, and as Joe Biden hit some more stumbles along the way, she seems poised to benefit.
And Biden's benefiting right now. I talked about the top four. Bernie, Warren, and Mayor Pete, they're all pulling from the same group of people. And so it's interesting. Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.